All right, there we go. So now I could say welcome to the first session of the CD10 group, and I'm excited about you guys being here, and I'm excited about what we're going to cover over the next couple of months. And tonight we're going to do some interesting things. We're not going to have a long session tonight. I want to get everybody kind of in the right framework, and then talk about where we're going from here. So the first thing is at a individual and group level expectation, if you will, where we should be. My sessions for years have typically been very casual, but yet professional. You get some flavor for that if you've been attending the IML sessions. I like punctuality. We've got everybody's clocks are a little bit different here or there. And oh my lordy, this always happens. I love it when people are trying to communicate with me via Facebook when I'm trying to do a broadcast. And apologize, but it is one of your fellow traders. So, punctual, like I said, everybody's clocks are off a few minutes here or there. That's okay. Generally, I give it a good 3 or 4 minutes, but that doesn't mean show up at at 9:03 or 9:04 either. I don't like those scenarios where everybody, oh, let me hold on a few more minutes for a few people to show up, because that's rude to the people who are punctual. There is an element of you want to not repeat yourself, and I'll tell you, I will just get to that point where I'm going to say we're going to start at 6:01, 6:02. If you come at 6:03, 6:04, I'm not going to repeat anything I say at 6:01. So, just be punctual. It doesn't hurt to be 5 minutes early. Grab your favorite beverage, grab a magazine, get here 5 minutes early, and be ready to go at 9 o'clock. All right. You need to be diligent as a member of this group. You're going to have to do your homework. You're going to have to be one who studies, takes notes, and be consistent in those efforts. All right. This isn't going to be like the IML group where we do a lot of repetition. It's taught during the session. I'll surely ask questions to bring clarity, whatever's going on, but I'm not going to repeat because somebody gets 20 minutes late. So you catch it live or you catch it in the recording, but we're not going to do it twice in the session. You're going to have to stash your ego and remain coachable. You need to be supportive of your fellow traders, and that means in the group and wherever we are. Okay. You need to be respectful of each other. And I say, this is an old military thing, you got to, peer to peer, you want to do your reprimands in private and your praise in public. So, let's not embarrass each other. We're all new, to a lot of the stuff we're doing, the new paradigm, if you will. And so, if somebody just does something incredibly silly or stupid or forgetful, we don't have to call them out on it. You can always Facebook message them. You guys should become Facebook friends if you're not. You can always Facebook message them and let them know that, hey, that post you made, you got your forks upside down. Do the praise in public. Hey man, that's an awesome fork. Hey man, that's an awesome trade. So let's try and be careful about how we offer our criticism. Always be respectful, always be professional. Understand the strength in community. All right. Everybody has to do their part. You can't be a sponge. Sponges come to groups and they just watch and listen. They never contribute. When we're in a group, and there's group posts, individual posts in our group, trade posts, trade setups, actual trades. Everybody benefits from that. And so you contributing to that benefit others. You can't be somebody who just benefits because others post and you never do. This has to be an interactive participation. And if you're going to be a sponge as time goes on, I'll just kick you out of the group. I'll send you the the videos, but the group stuff you'll just miss out on, because this, part of the requirement was be an interactive participant. And I understand people have schedules and whatnot, but if you're going to have time to see somebody else post, you're going to have time to make your own. That's the Grizzly speaking. But you have to understand strength and community. Got to follow instructions, okay? And you don't want to get too far behind, because this is not a each week repeats and just come and catch it as you can. We build from session to session. That's a requirement if you're doing something in an accelerated fashion. And so it's important to not get too far behind. Any questions on any of that? Most of that makes common sense, I believe. Okay, so I'm going to put this up. I'm going to put something up. No, I'm going to wait. I was going to put something up, but I know what's going to happen if I do. Some of you are going to start working on it right away, and I don't want that. So just remind me about the homework before I end the session. All right, so session 1 is mainly going to be about the head game. Well, head game part 1. We'll see how far we get through it. And this is because the training, the demo trading, the live trading is all necessarily very dependent on the head game. So we started out with a very small introduction to it in the Quick Fire Charlie Delta page, but I do want to go back to that image, and now we're going to fill a little bit more of this in. And this is very, very significant stuff. And so you may want to take progressive screenshots, although this is being recorded. So we're going to talk about this law of spirals. And I want to start by just talking about the crucial elements of it. And that is these 4 corners. And I'm not sure if Tony Robbins originated this or he got it from somewhere else, but he does talk about it. Other people, Noah uses his own version. It has three legs, if you will, instead of 4. And again, I'm not sure if he came up with his independently or if he got his from Tony or some other source. But it's given just casual attention. And it's much, much bigger than something that should be just taken casually. So it is a spin that goes clockwise, and as you see depicted in the middle, as it spins clockwise, it's either spinning up or it's spinning down. It is spinning one way or the other, whether you realize it or not. And that's not just for the Forex, this is for all of your life. And the 4 corners are pretty significant in the sense that, and again, you could start anywhere you want. I typically start in the upper left-hand side with potential because for the most part, we're all starting with the same potential. It's how we interact with the law of spirals that starts to separate us. And so the first major move from potential is action. What actions you take. And then your actions are going to give you results. Your actions are going to give you results. And your results are going to help flavor your belief in whatever it is you're trying to do. And so this is a vicious circle. The more action you take, the better results you're going to get. The better results you're going to have, the more belief you're going to have. The more belief you have, the more potential you have. If you have more potential, you could take bigger and act. And so this spirals. But as I said, while it spirals in the same direction, it either spirals up or it spirals down at the same time. So it's 2 planes. But there's a lot of elements that are missing from here, okay? We talk about going from potential to the action step, And of course, massive action. First thing I want to talk about. Massive action. You know, there's this thing that we have to kind of grasp onto in this effort, and it's called momentum. Especially in the learning phase. You have to have momentum on your side. And what I mean by that is you could put in the same amount of effort, but if you stretch it out too much, you lose the momentum. Case in point, if you're sitting at the top of a hill covered in snow and your goal is to get a snowball to roll down the hill. Think about two people, and the first person goes out there, and the first day they make a little tiny snowball about a foot round, and they stand there and look at the snowball, and they give it a little push, and not much happens. Maybe it moves an inch or two. Maybe it even starts to roll, but it stops because it's, slushy snow, let's say. Doesn't get very far. So they go home, they come back the next day, and they go, and they build another snowball the same size. And they're like, this one still isn't rolling down the hill. And they come back the third day and they build a snowman the same size. And the fourth day and the fifth day and the sixth day, 10 days. And then you look at what they've gotten. They had 10 little 12-inch round snowballs, and none of them have rolled down the hill. And yet their counterpart, 50 yards aside of them, the first day they build a little 12-inch snowball. The second day they build it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the time they end the 10 days, they both put the same amount of time. They both use the same amount of snow. It's just that the 10th day, that second snowball builder, has a big boulder. And he kind of leans into it with his shoulder, and it slowly takes off, and it gains speed. Not only does it gain speed, but it gains size because the weight creates more snow on it. And it slowly rolls down the hill until it picks up more and more speed. So you can't drag things out, guys. You can't say, well, I'm going to binge watch all the videos this week because I took a lazy path the last 6 weeks. If it's 10 hours of video, it's not the same as going through it 1 hour at a time. But you have to do it consistently. So you do want to have a sense of urgency leading into your momentum. That's the only way you can create momentum, is to have a sense of urgency. That's one of Brian Tracy's secrets to success. He always preached that years ago. Everybody has to have a sense of urgency. If you don't have a sense of urgency, you'll never build momentum. Now, sense of urgency does not equal lack of patience. That's a whole nother critter out there. Sense of urgency doesn't mean be sloppy. Sense of urgency just literally says, look, we've got this program. I know we got the winter holidays coming up. It's not going to end perfectly on December 31st. We're going to go well into January, maybe beyond. But it's a short program in terms of a training program. And during that time frame, this program has to have some sense of priority. I'm not saying you have to change your schedule. I'm just saying you have to find a way to get your study time in, to get your session time in, to get your watching the recording time in, and do it consistently. It has to be a priority. So when you make things a priority, you could give them a sense of urgency. I'm not going to go into the whole goal achievement modules that we have here, but I will say this. Most people who do and make an effort to do goal planning essentially fail if they don't have passion for the goal, if the goal is not big enough, they don't have belief for it, blah, blah, blah. We'll get through some of that. But a good reason many people fail to achieve their goals is because there's a conflict with their value and priorities. Okay? There's a conflict with their value and priorities. And I'm not here, nobody's here to judge your priorities or your values, but I will say they will determine the sense of urgency and therefore the momentum you will have. You need to have momentum on your side as you build to be a Forex trader. It's very rare for somebody to be, 3 years into it and still growing. You have to have that momentum up front. So whether it's during our actual program or immediately after, somewhere in there you need priority. All right. Now, I'll tell you why this priority and momentum is important. And that's because of the infamous exponential curve. And if you're not familiar, the exponential curve kind of looks like this. I'm going to have a hard time drawing across that big of a screen with my little tiny pad here. You essentially have such small gains that you don't see them. And then incrementally, your gains get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, what we have here with an exponential curve is we have some sort of yield or results this way. In terms of learning, in terms of dollar accumulation, etc. That is the y-axis. The x-axis is time. And if you divide that into units, here's a unit of time, here's a unit of time, and so forth, you'll see at some point in time, now these could be weeks, these could be months, these could be days, but at some point, as you move far enough into that exponential curve, that same week or month or whatever it is, you notice the kinds of gains you start making. In the very flat part of the curve, the yield or the gain, as you start one month and end month or week or day or however you're measuring it, there's your gain. And then you hit the mid part of that arc and there's your gain. And then you hit the top part of the arc and then there's your same gain in a week. Now, this exponential curve is exactly the same way compounding works. Exactly the same way compounding works. This is how the penny doubling works. And it's cool. It's a real neat thing that happens. This is why I asked you to read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy or The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, so you start to understand compounding. Because here's the problem. This right here, this right here I refer to as the flat part of the curve. And in here, you can't see progress. You can't see progress. So you win here. You move from milestone to time milestone to time milestone through a process of goals and rewards / celebrations. Because there's no gain in here that ultimately is what you're measuring yourself by. Now, this is true in the learning process, and this is true in the trading process. The gains are very small. And the advantage we have by having leverage and compounding, as long as you don't pull money out of your account along the way, you're going to get to compound that money, and the money starts working for you really, really rapidly. And you've seen, most everybody has seen the income sheets I've done, the Excel spreadsheets, and we can take that 5 pips a day to $1.4 million in 24 months. Still with nothing more than 1% gain a day. You're just doing it every day, day in, day out. And then the gains get compounded, and those gains got compounded, and the whole total gets compounded, and it just keeps marching forward. And so by the time that happens, you're way up here. So here's the challenge. People talk about, well, the Forex has a 95% failure rate. It's not true. Depending on the broker's studies that you read, There's about a 40% failure rate. The other 55% burn out. Burn out because they get stuck in this flat part of the curve. Zig Ziglar had an expression and used to talk about an old cook that his family had, and I don't remember the whole story about what ingredient she forgot to put in one time, but she said the biscuits or whatever it was got caught cooking in the squat. That was her expression, cooking in the squat. And that's what happens here. Okay. Now, most of it is psychological, but the curve itself leads itself to this reality. When I say psychological, it's because as a trader, you, even though you've only been trading a little while, you seem to have the ability to think that you can set your own expectations. Some of you don't want to ask about expectations because you're afraid to hear the truth. That's the sad reality of it. You don't want to hear the truth, right? You can handle the truth. You look at it intellectually and you say, oh, we're going to learn a trading model. I could do that in a number of weeks. I'm a good student. And again, your thinking is always about the technicals. It's very seldom about the head game. And as a new trader, you just don't understand the head game growth you have to go through because it's not something you're familiar with. It's not in your existing paradigm, so to speak. And so most of the time, the trader's expectations are false. And it's based on the fact that they weren't qualified to make expectations. They have no basis for it. It's just kind of, finger in the air, which way is the wind blowing? Not qualified to make expectations. So what does that mean? It means you have falsely created high expectations. And what that means is you think you're going to go from here to this part of the curve in a week. And what you're missing out is in the head game growth that has to occur over this stretch of time. Yes, the technicals can be learned, and technically you can apply them in a week. You can put them on the chart. But the growth in the head game is not something that can be accelerated. In fact, it's counterproductive. The more you try and accelerate the head game, the more you're going to get held back. So it's false expectations, false high expectations that create people to burn out here. The second thing is the flat part of the curve, merely by it being the flat part of the curve, gives the wrong feedback mechanism. Analogy. January 1st, not too far off. All the gym memberships are going to be sold over the holidays, right? This is my year. It's going to be the year. This is the year I'm going to get in shape, right? And maybe it's to lose 20 pounds. Maybe it's to put on 10 pounds of muscle. Either way, it doesn't matter. So what happens, January 2nd, you hit the gym. There you are on the elliptical. Boom, 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 boom. And, you push it. And next thing you know, hey, I got 20 minutes in on my first day on the elliptical. I'm on my way. And you go the second day and you go, hey, I'm just going to increment this a minute a day. By the end of the month, I'll be to, almost 45 minutes. So the next day you ride for 21 minutes. And the next day you're about to go to the gym and a friend calls and it's like, hey, blah, blah, blah's in town. We're going to go out and grab a few beers tonight. Why don't you come with us? And you're like, well, I'm supposed to go to the gym, but okay, I'll go. So you go have some beers with your friends and the next day comes and it's been a really long day and it's time to go to the gym, and here's the thinking. I missed yesterday, and I stepped on the scale today, and missing yesterday didn't have an impact on the scale today. So yesterday wasn't consequential. And once that first reality pops in, repetition occurs. The day doesn't seem consequential because the exponential curve doesn't show you results in that short stretch, in the flat part. And so, oh, I can miss today, it had no impact. And when you miss today, then, oh, well, I can miss Friday too. And then, oh, it was a long weekend, I didn't get everything done, got more to do, blah, blah, blah. I can miss Monday. And the next thing you know, there's your elliptical at home or whatever, and, it's a clothes rack. So the flat part of the curve happens the same way in the learning cycle of learning to trade. It happens the same way in the trading cycle once you start trading live money. Another thing that the flat part of the curve does is it helps you, the trader, misconstrue what your trading growth will be. Let me ask a simple question. You guys just fill in the blanks, or write the answer in your question box there. Which would you rather have at the end of the month? A 25% return on account or a 10% return on account? All right, so now let me give you the rest of the information. The 25% on the account was on a $5,000 account, and the 10% was on a $100,000 account. Now, which do you prefer, 25% return or 10% return? Yeah, exactly. So now the wise guy is going to come back and say, well, I prefer 25% on my $100,000 account. And you're right. But my point is this. When you get to these parts of the arc, guys, your trading is not at all like it is down here. For the very reason I just illustrated. If we put some sort of incorrect correlation, but just to make the hypothetical explanation here seem real, let's say the 25% return and the 10% return was a function of time. In other words, to get this 25% return, this trader, forget the dollar amounts, this trader had to put in 2.5 times the effort and time that this trader did. Oh no, yeah, I shut that off because I'm not going to have what I have happen in the live sessions where you guys are talking between each other while I'm trying to teach. So I specifically shut off member-to-member communication in these sessions. You guys want to carry on a conversation, you could Facebook each other or whatever, Skype each other, but I'm not going to have it as a distraction in here. Oh yeah, if you get, well, it depends on the questions asked. Somebody's asking, will I repeat the questions if asked? It just depends on the question. It's being a little funny. I hope you understand that. So what happens here is the trader starts making some return, and they're like, oh, okay, where's the first place this reality shows up, just even in trader speak? Where does this show up? When a trader says, when I say, what are your objectives? And the trader says, I want to be a full-time trader. And my first thought is, oh my gosh, I don't think you really mean that. What you want to be is a trader as first step, because I understand kind of what they're trying to say here. What you want to be initially is a trader who can make, sorry I can't write faster, but I'm writing with a mouse. And don't ask me about a stylus, I do that and it has conflicts with my system. You want to be a trader who can make a full-time job income. That's step one. But that has nothing to do with being full-time. Because if you just want to be a full-time trader, that's just another word for saying you just switched jobs. You went from your office job to your trading job. You don't want that. You want time freedom. When I first started trading, it was Fortune 500 marketing or becoming a trader. My goal was to replace my Fortune 500 marketing income, but do it with 20 hours a week versus 80 hours a week. Because that gave me the same income, but it gave me time freedom that I didn't have. So this time freedom is normally the second thing you really want to achieve with your trading. The first thing, and again, if you're a mainstream trader, you know, a lot of traders just want to make $500 a month to pay some bills. But normally the first thing is you want to bring your spouse home, or if you're single, you want to come home and you want to trade from home. Because at least you get to choose which hours. Even if it's the same 60 hours a week you work in your job, at least you get to decide which 60 hours. And that is a nice feeling, trust me. But then you want time freedom. And that comes when you start working your way up this curve. And that's where this reality kicks in. See, when you start accumulating money, you get to have time freedom, and you'll want it because you don't want to burn out. And you'll want it. So at some point, you know, think about this. When you have, just think big, when you have $200,000 in trading money, now you're down to a 5% return. Will make you $10,000 a month. But guess what 5% is? Think about that. $2 every 10 pips. When you put 2% into a 10 pip stop loss, that's 2% every 10 pips. So you need about 25 pips. That's just 2.5 basic quick-fire trades in a month to make your $10,000 a month. That's, you know, you can do that in a day. This trader up here with the $5,000 account getting the 25% return, you know, he's making $1,250. In order to amp that up, you know, to make the same $10,000, how many trades he's gonna have to have a $10,000 gain. So when you get to the higher dollar accounts, you don't have to work as hard. You can have very tiny profits in terms of percentages, but the percentages applied across such a big account. So now you have your time freedom. Now you can trade and still travel the world and still spend, 20 days a month with your grandchildren if you want, or grow a rose garden, whatever it is you want. So one of the mistakes a trader has that brings a little level of disillusionment to them in this flat part of the curve is they don't see the consequence. They don't see that little microscopic advancement, which, I call it micro progression. They don't see the micro progression on the flat part of the curve. And then secondly, they see whatever they're doing now as their future. So if they're watching, 7-8 hours of video a week, and they're going to live sessions and they're on the charts 3 to 4 hours a day, they're thinking, oh my God, I'm doing all this for that kind of existence? And they're forgetting how the compounding works. They're forgetting how the exponential curve works. So their lack of understanding of this curve gives them an RAS of what I'm doing here as far as daily routine is the exact same thing I've been doing here. It's just here I'm doing it with larger money. No. You'll be able to make 10 times the money here for, 1/30th of the effort. That's time freedom. So you have to understand that. Too many traders are like, and I'll be honest here, spoiler alert, this is where spousers are killers of traders. Because if you think a trader is not equipped to make expectations, let me tell you about a spouse. They have even less ability to create expectations. And if they're not given a set of expectations, they're going to create an expectation that is so unreal. And they're going to see this trader working down here, spending all those hours I talked about. And what I just described in that learning curve, it doesn't yield 1 penny. 5, 7 hours a week in videos, 2, 3, 4 hours a week in live sessions, demo trades on the charts, chart setups, not 1 penny. And they're thinking, I got to put up with this the rest of my life? Because they don't know about the exponential curve. They don't know this, just put in the work here, get it forward, and it will start marching. And then it gets on autopilot. On the business side of the organization, I know you guys aren't business builders, but, look at Jason Brown. 2 years ago, delivering pizza for tips. Friday morning, he gets an email every week. It says, commissions have been paid. Go check your Paylocian account. Do what you want with it. Transfer it to your bank, etc. Right now, when he goes to that Paylocian account on Friday morning, there's a payment there for about $65,000 at a minimum. That's just Friday morning. And then the next Friday morning, and the next Friday morning, and the next Friday morning. 2 years ago, delivering pizza for tips. He did presentations, in the living room of his apartment for 2 people. But then they invited 2, and they invited 2, and they invited 2. And now he comes back from a 30-day trip in Europe, and look at the size groups he was going to. 1,500, 1,200 people in a room. Same words, same 45-minute presentation. Early days, if he was lucky, he signed up 1. Now, 1,200 people in the room, the excitement that goes, you have 120 to 200 new IBOs. Same 45 minutes. See, that's leveraging. That's exponential growth. But he paid the price because when the results were slow and they weren't worth the effort he was putting in, come on. What's the sign up fee for signing somebody up in IML? Does anybody know what it is? There's no residual. It's a one-time hit. $35. Whoop-de-doo. Sign somebody up, $35. But when they all add up, now you get volume. Their volume counts towards the commissions. But definitely, there was no volume paid down here when he was starting out as an IBO. He had no volume. So when he signed somebody up, it was $35. That was it. Friday morning, about 10:30, 11 o'clock. Email from iMarkets Live. Commissions have been paid. That's exponential growth, my friends. So the exponential curve, you have to understand it, because if you don't, it will kill you. It will destroy your trading. So have to understand that exponential curve. So don't let it get you. Don't feel you're not making progress. You're making, as I said, micro progressions. You might not even see it. You go week to week to week in this program, you might sense you're gaining some knowledge, but the bank account hadn't reflected it yet. But you're gaining the knowledge, so when you do start trading, you'll be able to hit that curve running and hit it faster and sooner. So in here, the way you get to this curve fast is the best you can without overdoing it, is you want to compress this time. The less time you spend in the flat part of the curve, the less likely you are to get that psychological burnout that you're not making progress, which is why you stop going to the gym. So to avoid that, you have to have a sense of urgency. You have to have that daily commitment to put your work in. You have to build momentum. Private coach, I do private coaching. And I very limited number of people because, while I'm contracted to spend an hour, I typically spend 2 hours. You guys know me. They get much more than they ever paid for. So I've had 2 in the last round that I did the last 9 months quit. They just stretched out their gym membership, that's all. First couple of weeks, oh yeah, they were there with bells on. 4th week, oh, I got a dentist appointment. Well, we all have dentist appointments, but guess what? Did you even call to see if you can have it changed to another time? Did you even think of that? Did you put a priority on, well, I've got my one-on-one time with Steve, or I've got a dentist appointment. Yeah, the dentist appointment was scheduled 6 months ago, but that doesn't mean it can't be changed. So they miss it because of the dentist appointment. What have they done? Just like in here, they planted the seed. Oh, I missed the day at the gym. It didn't seem to hurt at all. And then 3 weeks later, oh, my aunt's sister's cousin is having an operation and we're going to go sit in the hospital with her. Okay. And then the next thing you know, it's like every other week, there's some excuse. And then and I'm telling them, look, you paid for it. If this is how you want to spend my time, that's fine. But then they get to that point where they're here and they've been at it. They think they've been at it so long and they see no progress. Woe is me. Okay. So the flat part of the curve, the exponential curve, is going to dictate everything we'll do. We'll touch more on this as we move on. All right. So we have to have priority. We have to urgency, momentum. A lack of patience is the great destroyer. Overly high, false expectations. All of that's going to affect the action that you take. What about from potential to here when we know all these things affect action? What about this outer loop? Purpose, plan. You have to have your dream. That's what purpose is. Your why. It has to be so huge. You have to have such passion for it. You have to see it as inevitable. It's a given. If you even question whether you can get there or not, it's going to be an issue. I'm working on a program with a very good psychologist. Just by show of hands, or just by saying yes, I'm curious. If there was a program specifically designed to improve your sense of self-worth, to go through legitimate exercises that somebody specializing in removing baggage that has a defeatist attitude towards self-worth. In other words, we're going to replace lack of worthiness with definitely feeling worthy. Who would be interested in such a program? All right. So this is a lady I've worked with the past couple of years, and we've been talking about projects we might be able to get into. And this came up recently because she wrote some material and I saw it. And so I called her the other day, and we're working out a proposal now. It's the one thing I really don't feel competent to talk on. I've done tons of study in human potential and self-development, but I'm not trained to go back to when you were 5 and your grandfather told you you'll never amount to anything, and that stuck with you your whole life. That's just beyond me and what I'm qualified to do. But she is. That's what she does for a living. So all of us need it. There's some level, because here's the reality. I said this in the calculator. If you really believed you can have 1.485 million in 24 months, you'd already have it. So the fact is, there's a lack of belief in deservedness, a lack of belief in self-worth, that you're really worth that kind of money. And so your subconscious mind is a loyal crew. And if you believe you don't deserve that kind of money, your crew will see to it. They will sabotage you because they want to be loyal to how you see things. And if you see it as if you don't deserve it, they're going to guarantee it for you. They're going to guarantee you don't make it. So purpose, you have to have a purpose. You have to have a dream so big. You have to have passion for it. You have to believe you deserve that dream. You have to create a plan out of it. And again, this is something you don't want to do and avoid, guys. You want to get some feedback. It should be an interactive process. This is where I am. This is where I want to be. How do I get there? Commitment. Well, commitment covers a lot. If you're committed to something, you'll have the discipline. You'll form the daily habits. All right? You'll form the daily habits. I see Robin Sharma has another program out, a habit program, 66-day habit program. Just started promoting it. So potential, what is the variable on all of these is going to determine, and then your priority, your patience level, your sense of urgency is going to determine the kind of action you take. So if all those have variables, that definitely means your results can be variable, and they will be. And when you're taking that action, there's got to be what? Persistence. Push, persist until success happens. Michael Jordan, failure is not an option, right? Andy Andrews, persist without exception. If you persist without exception, you'll never get there. You'll never not get there. Results. Daily self-development, because results will go right in here. And sometimes, especially in your growing stages, you're going to let results especially what you perceive as negative results, that's going to affect your belief set. And so you have to offset that. You have to do daily development work. You have to. Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. Club, also known as what? 20-20-20. First 20 minutes, do something physical. You have to break a sweat. Wake up and immediately, yeah, talk about comfort zone changes. Because it's been clinically proven that the production of various chemicals in your brain set the tone for the rest of the day if you can do that. 20 minutes of self-development. It's just an intro for the day. It's not your daily, you're not done with it, but you plant the seed for how your day is going to go. You know, are you already seeing the glass as half empty? As you start the day, you're seeing it half full. Make it half full. Mentorship. Well, you guys are already taking steps in that direction. You're here. Don't stop with that. You have to eliminate the negative in your life. The material, the people, situations. Remember, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. We're going to spend a lot of time on this in future weeks. Not all session, but all of our sessions will always touch on this in some flavor. We'll do more of this in the weeks to come, starting next Tuesday morning. And so this loops, guys. Now there's many more things around here. There's ability from potential to action. Ability is up here. We'll talk more about that. Ownership. If you have a goal, how much ownership are you taking? How much are you saying, I'm accountable and I'm responsible for that dream? Or are you going to make yourself the famous victim? I have a friend I knew from back, long time ago, 25 years ago. At a young age, she was on the professional speaking tour. She was an author. Her name is Lee Meltier. And she lived right down the road from me in Virginia Beach. And my first goal-making project, goal achievement project, she kind of served as my editor on. And I really appreciate it. She staged all the time, and she staged with all the big guys. Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, you know, Les Brown, you name it. She's been on the stage with them. And she had a famous saying in her very first book. Well, I think it's a famous saying. It's a great quote, let me put it that way, in her very first book. And there's a paragraph on victimhood, or a section on victimhood, and she says, there are no victims, only volunteers. There are no victims, only volunteers. So you have to eliminate victimhood from your thinking. You have to see yourself as 100% accountable. And you know what? Your circumstances might be worse than somebody else's. So what? Somebody else might have it easier than you do. So what? I guarantee you that, because I know many of you, and I know several of you very well, I doubt there's anybody in here that is worse off than several people I know who have still broken through to success. But you like to play victim. Why do you like to play victim? Because you don't want to be accountable. Because that's sticking your neck out. Your ego has to then say, uh-oh. Your ego wants to prevent you from those things, from taking chances, from taking risks. It doesn't want you to think you're accountable. It wants to make anything that you don't succeed at as a result of something external. That's being a victim. So ownership and accountability. You got to be the MacGyver. You got to be the MacGyver. Yeah, I was in one of the groups the other day, won't say which one, but excuse me, at a Facebook page, and there was a thread about, oh, the harmonic scanner's down, blah, blah, blah. And there were some people in there saying, well, I'm okay. And others were saying, well, I'm down. I can't log back in. And, it's kind of this, I don't know what they're doing on it technically, but there was some intermittent, it was working for some people and not others. But some of the ones that it was not working for were getting quite, upset. And it's like, look, if making scanner trades is what you're going to do, and you want to be accountable, you don't want to be a victim. What I would do if my scanner wasn't working, I was one of the people it was working for. What I would do is say, who here will help me? If there's a new scan on your computer, will you please take a screenshot and send it to me? I'll pay you $10 for it. See, you can get that scan on your TradingView charts if you want to. But it's easier to play victim sometimes. I can't proceed because here's this solid reason in front of me. That's not the MacGyver way. You have to be MacGyver. And if any of you don't know MacGyver, you need to DVR a couple episodes. Don't watch the whole thing, but just watch a couple episodes and you'll understand the fictional MacGyver, but you'll get the concept. So you have to take accountability. You have to take ownership. And when you do that, all of a sudden, different things, different gears start cranking. Okay? Different gears start cranking. Up here, one of the big things through all of this is, and definitely on my recommended book list for you, you have to have emotional intelligence. That's also the title of the book. There's actually sequences to it, sequels to it now too as well. Emotional intelligence. From that plan, somewhere over here, you have to have a method for tracking, measuring, some people say analysis of the results that you're getting per your plan. And this is a big part of the goal process. Understanding what is the difference between a desired outcome and a goal or task that you're going through to try and get that desired outcome. We will spend multiple sessions on goal making. Your plan, as you're going to your action, you have to have excellence in execution. It does no good to go through the effort to size up the dream, reduce it to a plan, get validation for that, maybe from some third-party help, and then not execute it, and or execute it in a sloppy way. A friend of mine, when I was talking about push, reminded me, he said, it's better to say end push. Effort never dies. Effort never dies. And on the persistence, persist until success happens. You want to have smart persistence, not just persistence, but smart persistence. results, perceived versus real. That works the same way expectations do. It's all about perception. And if you don't know how to evaluate your results, then you're going to end up with the wrong measure. And that's going to lead to disappointment. And that's going to lead to less belief and less mindset and less action. And again, spiral goes. So you want to understand how to process those results as being real or perceived. And for sure, your ego is going to look at those results and try and make some opinion for you. All right, so lots more to touch on this. I just wanted to get off to the right start because let me tell you in here, we're going to cover a lot of cool technical stuff. And I know that's in part why you're here. But I want to impress upon you the real reason you want to be here is to be successful in your trading. And that's not going to happen if your head isn't right. So you need to throttle back this natural urge you have for everything to be technical, technical, technical. That's the Holy Grail. In the end, the Holy Grail is you. It has nothing to do with indicators. Yeah, when are we going to talk about pitchforks? That was funny. I mean, I wasn't even 10 minutes into the session when he did that. But there again, that's groupthink. You know, if he goes to other sessions and they're not used to hearing head game stuff in other sessions, trust me. And that's also the search for the Holy Grail. So give me the detail. Give me the detail. So we're going to have 2 or 3 sessions on the head game as we get started. Now, homework going into Tuesday. So you have, you know, the nice thing about Thursday sessions is you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You got 5 days to tackle some things. If you haven't already done the Quickfire Charlie Delta video, you need to do it. If you only went through the pitchfork course once, you need to go through it a second time. You need to watch this video a second time. Take notes from it. The slides will get cleaner. Some of the stuff I talked about we'll add to this slide, and then next week we'll write some more, and then the following session you'll see those added to this slide. And so by the time we're done here, you're going to have a good representation of what I'm going to teach in this program called Law of Spirals. As a small homework assignment, which is something that you all should be able to get done in just a short period of time, I want to come back to my slide where I was talking about group expectations. And what I want you to do in this group is to help bring our a little bit of bonding to the group, is I have a homework assignment for you to create a bio. And so I'm going to post this right after I close this video in the group. And what I want you to do is cut and paste it and then make your own post with the answers. So I want your name. If you go by a nickname, and several of you do, you know, let me have your name and the nickname. Age, that's optional. You know, if you don't want to give it, I understand. You can just put not applicable. We're good. Where were you born? I'm curious about that. And then where you currently reside. If you have any children, what age, what gender, and what age? What hobbies do you have? What's your current occupation? How long have you been in the Forex? And then down to the date, what date did you join IML? When did you join IML? Okay. What is your dream? What is your purpose? What is your why? Now, I know some of you got to come out of your comfort zone to talk about that, but I'm of the school of thought, because of what I've seen in clinical studies. There are some people who think you should keep your goals to yourself, but there's been clinical studies that say that's wrong. You're best to share them, not just with family, not just with friends, but publicly. Now, you don't take negative feedback to heart. Don't let the self-worthiness attacks come at you. You'll never do that. But just between us girls in here, what is your dream, purpose? What is your why? What do you think is currently your weak point in trading the Forex? Could be anything. I want to know. It'll help me. What would be, if I can type, it would be nice. What would be a nice financial trading goal for you for the year 2018? And then any miscellaneous thoughts or comments. So I'm going to post this in the group, and I want everybody to complete that over the weekend or sooner than later, so it's available. And what I'm going to do with that is cut and paste by everybody and put it in a Word doc and put it in the file tab, so everybody gets a chance to know who each other is. Okay? So under miscellaneous comments, anything else that'll help us better understand who you are, what your goals are, how we might relate to you better, etc. Deal? You think y'all can do that in the next couple of days? Or at least the next 5 days? All right. So nothing big technical tonight. That's okay. I've got to get your head straight. Because, see, I will use the head game that I taught you to help teach you technical stuff. So just trust me on this. When you start doing something on your charts, I can say RAS, I can say accountability, I can say victimhood, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay? So you're not getting it to me. You're going to post it in the Facebook group. I'm going to cut and paste this information as a post right as I close this down, and you'll just cut and paste it and then answer right behind the categories here. All right, with that, I want to congratulate those of you who got here. There's about 10 who couldn't because of work or schedule or sleep or different priorities. But you made it a priority to be here, and that's something special. I know we're going to vary in attendance session to session. I made them opposing sides of the day just for that reason, to try and give everybody a shot to be here live at some point or another. We will get to a point where there's open mics for questions, especially as we get to the technical stuff. So I look forward to seeing you Tuesday morning. It'll be bright and early for me. I'll get up at 5:30 in the morning, my time, to be ready. So I'll see you at 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning. You guys have a great weekend. And remember, life can be short. So for those people you care and love, let them know you care and love them. Y'all take care.